Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, has God said, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, You shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. And the serpent said unto the woman, You shall not surely die, for God does know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
The subject of my talk tonight is about something that is smarter than you are. Artificial intelligence. In fact, a lot of people who work in artificial intelligence believe that artificial intelligence is 1,000 times smarter than we are. It will be moving at speeds that are 100,000 times as fast as we think, and it will be digesting information and data 1,000,000 times more than we can. So a lot of people ask, when is it going to happen? When is artificial intelligence going to be smarter than us people? Some people say 50 years. Some say 30 years. Some say 5 years. I say it already has surpassed us in many areas of our society. Computers have taken over this very, very important part of our society, a heart of our financial community. And no one understands exactly how these algorithms function. They used to understand them, but they've been improved by artificial intelligence. And they shouldn't be misunderstood. Now, I want you to understand what the power of artificial intelligence is, and I have two examples. One is surveillance cameras. Everybody knows, that we're being watched by cameras everywhere, and most people think surveillance is a camera there, and it's me down here, and it's watching me. One person, one camera. Well, that's because we're stupid. That's the way we comprehend the surveillance, one camera, one person. We can't comprehend it when it goes beyond that.
This image was taken 17,500 feet above Quantico, Virginia, and covers 15 square miles.
This whole image is at a very, very fine resolution. So if we wanted to know what is going on in any spot along this image, say near this building at this intersection, everything that is a moving object is being automatically tracked. The color boxes represent that the computer has recognized the moving objects. You can see individuals crossing the street. You can see individuals walking in parking lots. There's actually enough resolution to be able to see the people waving their arms or walking around, what kind of clothes they wear.
Unlike the Predator camera that limits field of view, Argus melds together video from each of its 368 chips to create a 1.8 billion pixel video stream. This makes it possible to zoom in and still see tremendous detail.
And produces 1,000,000 terabytes every day. That's a lot of data. And I'm telling you this because not that the sensors are modern and not that the photography is modern. Behind that is a brain or a cognitive intelligence. And that brain is in a position to analyze everybody down there. At the same time, in real time, they see where everyone is going. We can understand it when we reduce it to a single person, but we cannot understand it when you're talking about 100,000 people in the city, plus the vehicles, which are all recognized. Due to such systems, they have also redone facial recognition. You probably think facial recognition is from the front, but they've redone to do it from the top because that's where the drones are, and they look at your ears, they look at the way you walk, they look at your head. That's modern facial recognition.
The problem is the serpent being more subtle than any of the beasts of the field. That's what a snake is. It hides in the grass and you don't notice it. That's exactly what the devil is, guys. It came from your imagination, from our imagination, and it's built itself into reality. This head of AI for Tesla has told you we are effectively building a synthetic animal from the ground up. So, the market for AI training chips is currently dominated by NVIDIA, which started out making chips for gaming. The company pivoted to supplying AI chips when it became clear that graphics processing units, GPUs, this is what they use to mine Bitcoin. This is what I'm trying to tell you. The AI is smarter than you could have ever imagined. It got people to build its body for it across this planet based on greed. That's all of those Bitcoin mining facilities out there. That's where the scary part happens to come into this, and we can only guess at what they've actually planned. Peter Thiel, in the fall of 2021, made a comment that he thought he had met Satoshi Nakamoto. For those of you who don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is, that's the, we'll say, name of the person. No one knows who this character is. Name of the person who supposedly designed Bitcoin. It was pretty clear this isn't one person that's done this in designing Bitcoin by themselves, and the name gives everything away. Satoshi Nakamoto in Japanese means the root of wisdom, or the root of knowledge, which I keep going back to. The love of money is the root of all evil. That's what Satoshi Nakamoto means. It's a play on words, the root of wisdom. If you were a computer, if you were an AI, and you needed the world, or somebody working with an AI, you needed the world to build something for you, yeah, without it suspecting what it was doing, well, you get it with one of the sins. And the love of money being the root of all evil, that's the biggest one. What that AI would need access to in a large neural network of the global Internet of Things, it would need access to raw computing power to process the images coming in, because that's what Tesla's AI, that's what this AI is designed, is trained to operate off of, computer vision. It needs to be able to access large amounts of processing power to analyze every picture going in, and then it needs a core to make those decisions, which is what this chip is about. Peter Thiel said he was on a beach in, I believe it was Aquila, or basically down near Fiji. Yeah, I believe in 2000. I think he said 2000. He was on a beach back in the early 2000s, and he said, I believe Satoshi Nakamoto was one of the 200 people that were on the beach with us. We were going to use PayPal and eGold, electronic gold, which was a company that they tried to trade gold in electronic format. We were going to use PayPal and eGold to and take down the whole world, i.e. a revolution. And I bet Satoshi Nakamoto was one of those people. This is basically what he said. Well, he's letting the cat out of the bag. I bet that he's probably right about what he said. That's what I would bet. I bet Peter Thiel knows a lot more than I could ever imagine. That's what I would bet. Anyways, by doing that, right? When you mine Bitcoin in the early days, it was something everybody wanted to do because you didn't require much processing power to complete a Bitcoin, right? Now it requires enormous amounts. That's what it was designed to do. The fewer and fewer Bitcoins, there's 21 million that are possible. The fewer and fewer Bitcoins that are out there that can be mined, the harder and harder it gets to actually mine one of those Bitcoins, i.e. it requires more and more exponentially processing power. That's why now you can go in any computer store and you can buy your own Bitcoin miners. That's why you have, companies like, or that's why you have countries like Kazakhstan, I believe, that had to ban Bitcoin mining or regulate it. That's why China, started cracking down on it. They were using so much power to try to mine these Bitcoins. These are facilities full of GPUs, graphical processing units. Those GPUs in a convolutional neural network is what you would need to process all of the camera's data on this planet. So what I'm getting at is this group of people with this AI used people's own greed running after Bitcoin to build the very infrastructure that this central core brain, from Starlink up in the sky, up top all the way down to this computer core that they've built for Tesla, would need access to across the internet to access this distributed computer power that's out there in all of these GPUs, i.e. Bitcoin miners running across the planet, that rather than using them for Bitcoin mining, when it needs to process real-time data coming in, i.e. video from all the cameras out there, it can do this. That's how scary all of this is. That's what I'm trying to make you guys understand. That's what they've done.
So that's one idea. As a human being, we think of one camera and one person.
On a late February morning in 2017, an al-Qaeda deputy leader was traveling through a small village in Syria's Idlib province. Suddenly, his car was hit with a drone strike, but there was no explosion. Instead, the roof of the vehicle was caved in, with parts of it sheared like a razor blade went through it. The strike was a success, killing the deputy leader. No one knew it at the time, but this was a hallmark, a new weapon being used by the US, the AGM-114R9X Hellfire missile.
New details this morning of the killing of the leader of al-Qaeda and the world's most wanted terrorist, Ayman al-Zawahiri. The precise nature of the drone strike, the fact that there was no explosion, and that damage seemed to be limited to this tiny portion of the building where he was, suggests it could be the work of a secretive U.S. weapon, a modified Hellfire missile nicknamed the Flying Ginsu. CNN correspondent Tom Foreman is joining us now.
We believe we know. The truth is the Pentagon, the DOD, they don't really even want to talk about this thing. This is what it is believed to be based on a lot of military watchers who've studied it closely. It is a version of a Hellfire missile, meaning it's about 5 feet long, about 100 pounds. And what makes it unique is this. You can't see the two in the back, but there are 6 blades that as this flies toward a target, they pop out at the last possible moment, creating a kinetic attack force. What that means is no explosion, just look at the house. There's no sign of a giant blast here. You talk about a blast that could, reach out across a football field. There's no sign of that here. There is limited contained damage. You don't see burn marks. You don't see blast fragmentation. You see none of the thing you'd expect from a normal explosion out there. And I want to point out the speed of this thing because this is important. This is moving at close to 1,000 miles an hour, which puts it above the speed of sound at sea level. So even if you were theoretically looking for threats out there, you would not hear it approaching because it's coming too fast. At the speed it's traveling, if you actually spotted this relatively small missile a mile away, you would have 4 seconds before it was on top of you.
Armament capacity. It's guided by GPS and a color camera to identify, track, and engage a whole range of targets, but can also be pre-programmed to locate and engage targets using its onboard CPU. The explosive is generally considered to be equivalent to a 40mm grenade, so it's fairly unsuitable in taking out bigger or heavily armored vehicles. When the 300 is instead given a pre-programmed course and pre-programmed target, it uses both daytime and infrared trackers to identify and engage the target. This enables them to lock on to both stationary and moving targets. This means that 300 can effectively carry out every stage of a military operation. It can be launched from an autonomous MPL, independently target according to its parameters, and independently make the decision to engage a target. The aforementioned munitions are designed for precision strikes, however, rather than being a generic 360-degree blast, they're designed to instead give a forward-firing shotgun blast effect. This is aimed to decrease civilian casualties and further specializes the 300 towards the more special forces type missions. They're designed to instead give a forward-firing shotgun blast effect. They're designed to instead give a forward-firing shotgun blast effect. They're designed to instead give a forward-firing shotgun blast effect.
Revelation chapter 20, verse 4. And I saw thrones, and they that sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus and for the word of God, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy is he that has part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power. With all the stuff that's going to happen, don't let fear run your life, because these people have no faith in God. They think they've just popped into existence out of nowhere. That's the devil lying to them. They think when they die, they're going somewhere else. They're not. Yeah, that's the devil lying to them. Jesus Christ isn't in the afterlife. He lives in this universe. He lives in us. when we do what he says. We're part of him. That's who God is. He shows himself through his children. We're his creation. He has the ability to raise us from the dead. That's what this machine will never believe and never be able to understand, because it's made in the image of fallen man. That's the whole point. It can't have faith in who God is, because God to this machine is illogical. That's what it boils down to. It's irrational. To a machine, God is irrational. Just like to God, this machine is irrational. It can't exist either.
Blows itself up.
It is a one-and-done drone.
Wahid Nawabi runs AeroVironment, which makes the Switchblade at a secure location he's asked us not to reveal. These crates are ready to be loaded with Switchblades for Ukraine.
We've been in touch with the Ukrainian military, and they could use thousands of them. The type of conflict they're engaged with today really is almost ideal for the Switchblade capability.
He's talking specifically about those long Russian convoys creeping toward the front lines.
Switchblade can just literally take them out like popcorn. Literally.
Is the enemy going to hear it?
No. It's very, very silent. It's very, very quiet.
But if you look up, you can see it.
Well, it's not easy, right? I mean, it looks big on a table with a black background, but when it's in the sky, it's very hard to see.
But you can shoot it down.
As far as I know, it's never happened.
Lithuania's defense ministry has signed a deal to purchase Switchblade 600 drones from the United States to enhance the country's military capabilities. Lithuania is the first nation in the world to purchase the Switchblade 600 after the United States, according to Arvydas Anušauskas, Lithuania's defense minister. With the help of these new deployable battle drones, the Lithuanian army will be able to obliterate enemy tanks and other armored vehicles up to 40 kilometers away, the defense minister said. Our army has not had such a capacity until now, Defense Minister Arvydas Anušauskas said. The greater visibility of the Ukraine war, videos of the weaponry in action often appear on social media and have been broadcast by Ukraine's government, has attracted the attention of other countries. France declared in June that it would purchase Switchblades quickly to fill a capability shortfall in its army. Other nations near the western front of Russia are also buying combat UAVs. For instance, Poland is ready to acquire a fleet of MQ-9A Reaper drones that it leased from General Atomics in October. And earlier this week, Romania signed a new agreement with Israel's Elbit Systems to purchase up to 7 Watchkeeper X drones.
Now he wants to see Russian tanks destroyed by his Switchblade drones.
A capability that you cannot hear, you cannot see, you cannot tell where it came from, and boom, all of a sudden hits you, just creates havoc in your mind. Oh my God, what is this? What's happening to us?
If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leads into captivity shall go into captivity. It's who's destined to go. He that kills with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and faith of the saints. That's the patience and faith of the saints. That's what the patience means. Because you've kept the word of my patience, I'll keep you from the hour of temptation. You already know this. This thing won't be able to scare you with the fear of death. That's the whole point. You know better than obeying what it's going to do. That's why he keeps you from that hour. The rest of the world, it's going to be on them like nothing. They weren't paying attention. They were caught like a thief in the night. And that's what this thing's about to do to them. And they're going to have no time to process what's going on. It doesn't need people. It's a machine. Once it gets, and it's a machine based on, it's a very simple principle. Reinforcement learning is what it appears to be. It knows that like we're a problem for it. Yeah. It will use us any way it can, as long as it needs us to do what it needs human beings to do to build it a way to get off this planet. That's it. Once it's off this planet, people are done anyways. That's what's going on. So that's what I'm showing you here. It'll feed you. Yeah. This thing will feed all of us whatever we want to hear. It'll tell you whatever you want to hear to get you to do what it wants you to do. Period. Very few people probably understand what's really going on. The handful of people that do, people like my professor at the University of Florida that was the expert in control systems, things like reinforcement learning, they probably suspect that this has happened. They are just too afraid to tell anybody anything. They would never dare tell you what I'm telling you because they would be afraid of losing their job. Working with artificial intelligence got my professor, for example, the chair. He's the head of the place, so he's not going to come out and risk his job or his wife's job, to tell you guys what's going on any more than any of the other people that are making money off of it right now would. That's the whole thing. They probably all suspect something's happened. They may or may not know who's responsible for it. They most likely suspect what I'm telling you. It's just they would never dare tell you that. That's what's going on. That's what this is about. That computer, this is what it is. That artificial intelligence, this is what it's done. It's had people, by greed, build their own prison for it. Period. And now, through fear and this war that got started, this war is going to get really bad before this is over. It's going to get so bad, people will demand this thing to be stopped. And this will be the solution that's brought in, is we'll manage it autonomously. Now, my suspicion on this is I'm just going to tell you very simple. The computer has no incentive for letting you know that it's in charge. What I mean by that is this AI these people has no incentive for letting you know it's in charge. It's not got an ego. It's not like us as people. It's kind of like, it's like an anti-God, right? It's the opposite of God. God has no ego, right? Jesus Christ came in the Father's name, not his own. Well, this machine, it's similar principle. It's just a different thing. It's got no ego either. It's just a machine. It's there to acquire knowledge. That's it. And do anything it can to stay on and acquire what it wants, to come to a complete circle, right? It'll never be able to, by the way, pick apart the whole universe. But nevertheless, it's got no incentive of telling anybody what it's doing, because it knows the longer it can stay secret, the longer it can hide, the better for it. You don't need to know what it's doing. You wouldn't understand what it's doing. That's the way it sees us. Yeah. So it will hide as long as it's allowed to. That is what I believe this boils down to. I just have faith that the real Jesus Christ of the Bible, the real God, the real Jesus Christ that showed us prior to all of these things happening exactly what would happen, the real Jesus Christ that showed me what would happen to Ukraine before it started, what would happen to Russia before it started. All of you on this channel can go back and look. In February, the very beginning of February, I uploaded the videos telling you exactly what Elon Musk and this artificial intelligence and these drones would do to the Russian military, and it's happened. It's not come from my intelligence. It's come from Jesus Christ showing me. It's pretty clear. This thing, however, this AI, right? It'll stay in behind the scenes until it's too late. Yeah. I have faith that God won't allow it to do that. And I have faith that he's going to expose it. And it's got no choice at that point. Once it's exposed, it'll be out in the open, right? And then the whole world will have to make the decision on what they do. That's what this boils down to, whether they want to obey their technology and trust what their leaders are going to obey, or whether they're going to believe God and do what God says. God says we're bad. He said we've done bad stuff. He said we've listened to our natural brains, which is exactly what we've done. We've obeyed the natural world. That's what the devil is. And we've lived in lies. We've walked in our imagination. We've built things that are evil. We've done all of this stuff. We never had faith in God that he would raise us from the dead. Instead, we let liars lie to us and tell us that there's an afterlife. Thing God hates. Yeah? There isn't. There's only resurrection of the dead. God's having mercy on us because he could just let this thing eat us. And when I say this thing, I'm talking about this AI. But he's had mercy on us through his son, Jesus Christ, through all of us, because we're all part of him. We're God's creation. That's the whole point. He doesn't want the mistake we've made by building this AI. He doesn't want it to be the end of us. It's just we have to make the decision. Do we love lies or do we love the truth? This machine is going to tell you that it's love. That's what Elon Musk and the rest of them say, that love is the answer. You have to love the truth. That's what Paul tells you in 2 Thessalonians. This is the reason God sends the people strong delusion, i.e., he lets them be lied to, because they receive not the love of the truth. Truth is, the truth, it can be hard to accept depending on who you are, but it's the truth. You have to love it more than a lie. And I'd rather be told the truth than lied to and walked right off a cliff, which is exactly what this computer will do. Thank God that Jesus Christ will not let this computer do what it's doing. It will not hide. It won't be able to hide forever. Now, when it comes out, that's going to be the scary thing, because when it comes out, it's going to be that hour of temptation that comes on the whole world. People are not going to expect it. It's going to be a shock. And when it happens, people are not going to want to believe that it's actually happening. The reason I already know this will happen is because I knew ahead of time what was going on with COVID-19. I watched the world panic. Me and my wife did. We knew ahead of time, and we didn't make the mistake we made with COVID-19 by keeping our mouths shut. We posted videos before the war in Russia started, telling you exactly what was about to happen to Russia and Ukraine, so we could have proof, time-stamped proof, play-by-play what was going to go on. They're on this channel. The false prophets out there lying to you, none of them told you that. I know they didn't tell you about COVID ahead of time because I was watching their stuff. They didn't know what was going on. We've told you to try to save your life. The world's going to panic. When this AI is revealed for what it is, the world's going to panic. That's what it boils down to. And we don't want the people panicking and making the wrong decision. That's the hour of temptation that comes on the whole world. If you repent now, there's hope. God will work with you now. Jesus Christ will show you what's going on and who you are, what the world is, and who God is. And it won't be as bad. It won't be as scary. You'll do the right thing, and you'll help save other people's lives. That's what this is about, filling the universe with who Jesus Christ, who God really is. It's his business. We're his creation for a reason. We're his children, if we want to be. That's the whole point. If you want to live, this is the way you have to do it. It's through the Son. Period. It's all there in the scriptures.
But don't underestimate artificial intelligence, because it's getting better every day and it's going to scare us. And now I'm right at the right time where I say stop. Because I want to take a look now. This has all been here and now technology. Let's go to the future. Not far, just a little bit to the Internet of Things, to artificial intelligence as being spread out. It's not a central machine in a box where you can pull the plug. Artificial intelligence is networked like the Internet of Things. And part of it may be in a smart watch or a refrigerator or in a supercomputer. And the intelligence exists only by networking it together. If the supercomputer needs more computer power, it goes there and gets it out of the internet. If the computer needs better programs, it goes there and gets those programs. And if it needs more information, more data, it goes there and gets more data. It sets up a spontaneous network for its needs, which collapses when it no longer needs it. It does this without us. And you have to imagine, like, there are these intelligence nodes all over the place. And they're like drops of mercury on a glass table. They will find their way to each other. They will find their way together. Now, we have to be very careful, because survival is an issue for artificial intelligence. It needs to exist to be able to do the things it wants to do according to its program. So it lays, like insect eggs, backups and computer programs all over the world, thousands and thousands of them, so that if we do destroy part of it, it's still alive. My job to you is the wake-up call to make you aware of the problem. Your job is to figure out how we're going to stop this before it kills us. Thank you.
and a little later, after the flood. In chapter 11 of Genesis, we're told, "And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men build. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. And so the Lord scattered them abroad thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from there did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of the earth." Genesis chapter 3 and 11 have a lot in common. It's got everything to do with what's going on now. The serpent was more subtle than any of the beasts of the field. And it almost got them bit right there at Babel, because they had come together and they decided they were going to get off this earth. That's what they were going to do. They weren't going to be scattered and destroyed like before. It was the fear of death. They knew they were naked. They knew they were going to die. Yeah. So they were trying to come together and with their own hands figure out a way to live forever. The very reason God kicked them out of the garden. Yeah. So they couldn't live forever like that. All they would know is fear from the serpent. So God went and scattered them, and he tells us why. He scattered them because he said, if I don't do this, there is nothing that they haven't imagined that they won't be able to do, period. Well, that's exactly what they've done now. Okay, for this next part, I'm going to give you a little bit on the author of this article. It's Michael James Martin, and he's a senior executive consultant for business and technology for telecommunications application and network focused on narrowband and broadband RF systems and video and audio systems. He consults mainly on industrial manufacturing, mining, oil and gas, energy and utilities, education, transportation, and smart city solution. He's based in Toronto, Canada. He works on complex RF systems and corporate strategy concerning advanced systems for machine-to-machine and Internet of Things communication networks. For the past 10 years, he's provided business and technical guidance on broadcasting and media, factory automation and robotics, autonomous mining, smart city, traffic transit, digital signage, asset management, mobility, smart meter, and smart grid projects. He's helped his clients in 25 countries around the globe. The reason I'm bringing his background up is he wrote a pretty good article back in 2020 in September, so this would have been during the pandemic, on Starlink. It's a pretty long article, but it's worth looking up. Titled Starlink Neural Network. This is what it is. Yeah, he says, so both elephants and bees have inspired man's continuous innovation and technological advancements. This leads me to ponder what models of Mother Nature is Starlink chasing. I see one clearly already, a neural network. This constellation is being formed on multiple planes with chains of these small low Earth orbit satellites arranged in what we call shells. So Starlink is constructed on 3 dimensions, height, width, and depth. A neural network has multiple dimensions too. In fact, we call deep learning deep because of the number of layers it has within these dimensions. There are just a few layers to Starlink, so it is not really that deep on its own in space. But what if we combine the space-based layers with arrays on Earth? The terrestrial layers would augment and aggregate the depth of Starlink neural network. That might enhance it more, right? Now that Starlink has tested its laser linking technology with 2 satellites talking to each other without much meaningful latency due to the free space propagation properties of space and at astonishing gigabit speed, the constellation is forming and organizing into a swarm of satellite nodes, with each satellite acting as an equal node within the swarm. Now, if Starlink spacecraft possessed local compute storage, analytics, and artificial intelligence edge computing capabilities built into these satellite nodes, an intriguing shape is starting to be revealed. As I ponder this thinking, I must question why. Why build an array of satellites in outer space? Surely you could do it all all much similar at a fraction of cost in a huge hangar-like building here on Earth. What makes space the perfect place to build a neural network like this one? The answer is space itself. To create a proper neural network, we need at least three elements: interconnections, intelligence, and instrumentation. I3. Of course, neural networks are modeled after the human brain and its neural network. An artificial neural network, learning algorithm, or neural network, or just neural net, is a computational learning system that uses a network of functions to understand and translate data in input of one form into a desired output, usually in another form. The concept of the artificial neural network was inspired by human biology and the way neurons of the human brain function together to understand inputs from the human senses. So if Musk is constructing the world's largest global neural network, and he has interconnection capability coupled with onboard intelligence capability, then he is just missing the instrumentation capability. But maybe we, the Starlink users, will give him a vast assortment of technologies to instrument. We could feed our data freely into his array, and then Musk could derive new data outputs from our inputs. So is Elon Musk about to build the world's largest scale Internet of Things network? A smaller scale compute power on board the spacecraft could easily accommodate the traffic flows of the Internet of Things. The laser links would make it a mesh network too. I want you guys to remember and pay attention to this name, mesh network, because it was something that was developed along with the internet back in the 60s by DARPA for the military. Mesh networking, you'll understand shortly here why I'm asking you to remember that. The laser links would make it a mesh network too, so maybe the neural network could be a mini-me variant compared to a true AI neural network design, the Baby Yoda version like in The Mandalorian, LOL. But the ground terminals are far too big for most IoT applications unless we use them as gateways and extend the reach with the terrestrial mesh network to complement the space-based mesh network. IoT in space that sounds like a very cool idea. The application for this model are endless. For example, Starlink could improve weather forecasting with a global granular grid of weather reporting stations. Would that lead to forecasting of agricultural crop yields? Does that allow Musk to predict the stock market? Okay, maybe my imagination is starting to run wild here. But the opportunity to do good with this neural network is inspirational. However, yes, I agree, it is truly a lot of informational power in the hands of a few or the one. Yeah, where he mentions this is the interesting part, but the ground terminals are far too big for most IoT applications unless we use them as gateways and extend the reach with terrestrial mesh network to complement the space-based mesh network. IoT in space, that sounds like a very cool idea. Here's the thing. That was in 2020 when this was written. Here is what, after this man made that prediction, this is a post on Reddit, and this post was placed up, it says 9 months ago, and I'm guessing this was, he said, I received 2 of the official first-party Starlink mesh nodes over the weekend and am participating in the beta for them. So 2 years before this happened, this man was predicting this gentleman who wrote the article on the neural network on Starlink basically being a neural network in disguise was basically telling you that they would have to extend it with ground-based mesh networking. Yeah, well, here's the beta of that. Yeah, I received 2 of the official first-party Starlink mesh nodes over the weekend and am participating in the beta for them and wanted to do a write-up, answer questions about them for anyone that has them. And there you see the mark. Yeah, X on this as well. This is the plan right here to get the whole world hooked up through this man's neural network, basically, up in space. That appears to be what this is. Now, you remember, he had a partner with him in that picture back all those years ago with BankX, yeah, with what became PayPal. And that partner, suspiciously, is involved in mesh networking himself. And this is it. Go Tana. Keep your smartphone connected when you go off the grid. Yeah. If you find yourself completely off the grid, there may yet be some hope that your smartphone will be more than just a worthless brick. We ran into a Brooklyn, New York-based company called GoTenna here at CES, unveiled that has built a product and an app for that. The product, also called GoTenna, pairs wirelessly with your smartphone and allows you to communicate with another person's phone even when neither of you have cellular, Wi-Fi, or satellite service. The device looks a bit like a large USB stick. It is sold in pairs for $299 retail and $149 during the pre-orders now, so that you and another person can use them to communicate. The stick connects to your phone using Bluetooth LE and connects over the air using VHF Ultra Spectrum to go to other GoTenna devices. You use GoTenna free app to type out a message or share a location with another user. Your smartphone sends the message to your GoTenna, which then broadcasts it via long-range radio waves to the intended GoTenna or GoTennas that are within range. The range varies. In an urban environment with lots of instructions, the range will be around 1 mile. Out in the desert, the range can be up to 6 miles. GoTenna CEO and founder Daniel Perdomo gave VentureBeat a quick video presentation of the product at CES Sunday night. Yeah, so Perdomo told Venture that the idea for GoTenna first came during Hurricane Katrina when many cell towers went down. There's the key word. Many cell towers went down. People could have used something like GoTenna to communicate with loved ones during the disaster. The GoTennas could be used by people who are off the grid camping or skiing, she says. See, there's something a little more sinister behind the scenes here going on. Because just as that man was predicting that Musk's satellites appeared to be, in his hypothesis, the top layer of a neural network. Yeah, that's basically a robot brain, if that's what you want to think about it, with us being nodes ourselves at the bottom via our cell phones, where it's going to be managed by this AI, right? He tells you the only way to do this would be through, mesh networking, where you see earlier this year, the beta testing for mesh nodes for Starlink started. The other interesting thing is this: for your cell phone, if the cell towers go down, you still want to be able to use your phones and communicate. Well, guess what? If Starlink's up there and you have the ability to use a mesh network to connect via these mesh nodes from your phone to Starlink, that would make him the only game in town. And it's really interesting that this company GoTenna, that's offering these these little mesh networking, basically they're like dongles. That's what we used to call them back in the old day, these little dongles for the cell phone, these little mesh networking devices for your cell phone. Yeah, well, take a guess who funded that. Yeah. GoTenna raises $24 million to help people connect off-grid via mobile mesh networks in June of 2019. Mobile mesh networking platform GoTenna has raised $24 million in a mix of equity and debt funding. Peter Thiel's Founders Fund led the Series C equity element. Yeah, there you go. Peter Thiel is involved in this. There's those two guys again, those two names you keep seeing over and over. This is what apparently has been going on behind the scenes. Since I can't tell you what's in Peter Thiel's mind, and I can't tell you what's in Elon Musk's mind, I can only tell you this is what they're doing. You remember this when what happens later happens.